Hey everybody, and welcome to another installment of Board Games Hitting My Table. So this is where I talk about all the board games that I've been playing over the last couple of weeks. This episode covering the first half of March 2023. Now before I get started on these games, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer when it comes to purchasing board games here in the UK. And if you use my link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. But let's get cracking. And we're going to start with this little gem here called Municipium. So Municipium, a game that I've recently acquired and I've just fallen in love with. This is such a neat little kind of area majority game, but one that's quite delicately balanced in the way that everything works. So essentially you have these pawns of your colour on the board. You are manipulating them around these different kind of spots. And all these spots have a different power associated to them, which will manipulate the board state. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to collect meeples of the 4 different colours. And when you collect collect a set of 4, you'll convert that into a coin. Then it's going to be a race to get to, I think it's 4 or 5 coins, depending on how long you want the game to be. Now, I actually made a bit of a goof. And when we played this, we played first to 3 coins, which is not an official rule, but it doesn't really change the game too much, and it just makes it quicker. But I kind of wish that I played till 4, but somehow I had it in my mind that it was till 3. But I still think this game is fantastic. It's really smooth. It's actually really easy to teach. But it does have some wrinkles in how the different spots interact with each other. And it has more going on here than first meets the eye, I think. And I think it went down well. It definitely plays quickly. And it's just a clever little game that's flying up my rankings. So that is Municipium, definitely a gem here. One that's definitely gone way under the radar, considering it's a Reiner Knizia game. So that is Municipium. We played a game of District Noir. So this is a 2-player only tug-of-war style game, which you're trying to compete over these different cards. Now, I've talked about this one quite a lot recently as well. It's definitely regularly hitting the table because it is so quick. And it has some really cool decisions here, as you are either playing a card out in this communal row, or you are taking the last 5 cards played in that row. And some of these cards are positive, some of them are negative, some of them you're competing to have majorities of, and there are these sudden death cards as well, where if you have all 3 of those, you'll automatically win the game. And for the first time, that was the winning condition, as I played my brother at this game, and he managed to collect all 3. I was in a bit of a trap. I tried to I was 2 of those cards down. I kept on trying to lure him to take the 5 cards, hoping that he'd take the points, because I knew I had that one final card in my hand. But he kind of saw through that and was waiting till I played them all, and then took all those cards to get the win. But this is such a clever game. Definitely a fantastic ratio to time, decisions, etc. Really nice game that I highly encourage you to pick up, and I think it is coming to or getting reprinted in kind of England, America, that kind of thing. So hopefully it's going to be more widely available soon, because it is fantastic. So that is District Noir. We played a 3-player game of the classic Biblios. Biblios, one of the best filler games of all time, been featured on the channel for many, many years. And I actually managed to win a game of Biblios, so I very rarely win this game. But it's so clever, as you are basically doing this clever draft as you are drawing 1 card at a time, keeping 1, giving them others to your opponent, and then putting 1 in a communal pile. But it's got this kind of push your luck mechanism, as you have to make your mind up after each card draw. And then with the second half of the game, you're spending these money cards to acquire cards put in that communal pile, and then hopefully you're going to have the majority of a certain suit to score points based on this kind of fluctuating market, or this the value of the each suit changes based on manipulation by the players. It's so clever, and it's just it holds up so well and just regularly hits the table. It's just it's got everything really what you want from a filler game, being so quick but still being so crunchy, and it has one of the best end game reveals in any game. So that is Biblios. We played a 2-player game of Fluoriferous. I think for the first time this has broken in to a accommodation. This has really grown on me over the months I've been playing this one. It's a lovely little set collection game, as you are kind of moving your piece up and down these rows of cards, or columns of cards, The higher you go up in a column means you're going to be the first player in the future turn or the next turn. But in order to get these scoring cards, you have to go right to the bottom, which will obviously mean you're going to go last in the next turn. And you always have to kind of weigh up your options there. You know, should I go here now? I'll take this card that's okay, but guarantee this card that's great in the next turn. And then you're trying to build towards these sets. You're trying to get these public objectives. And it's just, you know, it doesn't do anything new at all. But what it does in a very nice package. And it's got a lovely flow to it with some, you know, not terribly paralysing decisions, but ones that are meaningful. And again, there's just lots of different ways you can get points. And, you know, you can play this in 20 minutes. It looks lovely. And it's just a really nice game. So that is Fluoriferous. We played, I believe, a 5 or 6 player game of Skull. So Skull has been a game that I hadn't played for quite a while, actually, but I'm really glad we got this to the table because I kind of forgot how much I like it. So this is one of the best kind of bluffing games I think I've ever played, as you are basically you're saying how many coasters you can flip over without revealing these skulls. So there's 2 different types of these coasters. So there's ones with the roses on them and one with the skulls on them. And when you're on your turn, you can basically add a new coaster in front of you, or you can call out a number saying, you know, I can flip over this many coasters without revealing a skull. And obviously there's lots of wrinkles here because you can say a number, knowing that you've played a skull, hoping that someone will outbid you, assume that you've played just you know, the flower cards, and then they go straight to you and then reveal the skull. So there's definitely little tricks and things you can play here, and it's just a really good filler game. You know, if you've got those high player counts, this one is a fantastic option. And again, one of those things where you think, is this even a game to start with? Then you start to realise quickly that there is certainly a game here, and definitely the mind games go on. So that is Skull. We played, I believe it was 3 games back to back of Rapido, also known as Escape, recently reviewed. This very quick push your luck game as you're climbing this staircase by you know, rolling dice. You're looking in a place depending on how well you roll, and then hoping to stay on that staircase before it gets back to you. If you roll doubles, you'll go up the staircase instantly, and it's basically a race to get to the top. And the first game we had of this, I played this with my parents. I think it was the quickest game I've ever had because whatever I did, it just went my way. I kept rolling, you know, I kept rolling pairs. I kept rolling really high numbers. And I think within 3 or 4 turns, I was right at the top of the staircase, meaning that we just had to play again. But this is just an absolute gem of a game. If you like dice games and you have like a family or a young family, this is such a fantastic game to go for. You know, I play this all the time and I absolutely adore it. So that is Rapido. We played some more of Olifan. So Olifan, a game that was only picked up by me in the last few weeks. A game that got very quick kind of, well, it had its kind of 5 minutes of fame, I suppose, on Board Game Geek. I had a little bit of buzz that seems to have quickly vanished. And that almost kind of replicates how I feel about the game because I do like the game quite a lot, but I think I even said in my review that I'm not sold that it has the longevity to keep me coming back after I played those initial times. And I think that's where I'm at with this one. So I actually do think some of the mechanisms are very clever as you are loading up this kind of fleet board here. You're rotating it, you're loading on these goods tiles and then bringing them back to you in order to compete over these different cards, which will score in different ways. And that's pretty much the gist of the game. And I do think it's solid. And I do think this little gimmick here is neat. But I think once you've played the different scoring cards, once you've kind of sussed how the game mechanisms work, you're kind of like, okay, that was cool, let's go on to the next thing. And that's kind of how I feel about this one. So I think, after I played this probably like 4 times or so, and I think, you know what, it's time to move on because it's good, but is it as good as games like District Noir, what I've talked about? Is it as good as games like Lost Cities? No, it's not. I don't think it's going to hold up. I think it's going to be quickly forgotten, as is the case with myself. So that is Olifan. We played a 4-player game of Rumble Nation, so it wouldn't be a video of, well, it wouldn't be an episode of Hitting the Table without me talking about Rumble Nation. So introduce this one to 2 new gamers and someone who played it before, and then again, never had a bad game at this one, an absolute blast. A very close game as we were all competing and definitely had a chance of winning. But I think one of the new players won, which is nice because it gives them a good impression of the game. But yeah, this is just a fantastic dice-driven area control game. I won't talk about it anymore because I talk about it all the time. But hey, it's great. That is Rumble Nation. I also played a 4-player game of Ticket to Ride. So it's been a long time since I played Ticket to Ride, and we played it with the France expansion. And basically, the special rules to this particular expansion are that all the tracks are neutral to start with, and you have to place the colour of the tracks before you lay your actual trains. I kind of like that in theory, but in actuality, it just kind of showed your hand and what you had in your hand in terms of the cards you had. Because if you're laying a piece of black track, you're obviously going to have black cards in your hand. So I think it ruined a part of the game in a way. Now, I don't dislike Ticket to Ride, but I don't like it either. I just kind of feel a bit numb about it, really. It never really inspired me, but at the same time, I can see why people do like it. I actually really hate the in-game trigger of this game. As soon as somebody runs out a certain number of trains, it will just basically end the game on that turn. And that can catch a lot of people off guard and kind of leave contracts in your hand that you had no kind of control over completing. So hey, it's fine. Again, I just feel very neutral on it. I probably put it about a 5 out of 10. And hey, that's Ticket to Ride. You guys all know what Ticket to Ride is about. And the final game that we played was a 4-player game of Acquire. So Acquire, this is such a classic. This is a game from the 60s by Sid Sackson. It's a kind of a commodity speculation or kind of a stocks and shares style game as you're building up these different kind of units on the board. And the bigger they get, the more valuable these companies become, and they start to merge with the smaller companies, making giving payouts to the shareholders of the newly consumed company. It's quite an interesting game about how you balance your strategy, because you want investment in the big companies that are going to be lasting at the end, because they're going to give you loads of end game money, but you need to be making sure that you have a steady income throughout the game by investing in the smaller companies, so you get dividends when they get consumed by the bigger ones. Because again, if you run out of money, you're pretty much screwed in this one, and that is what happened with one of the with the players we played this with. They started off really strong, started getting all the majority shares in the biggest company, and they quickly ran out of money because they stopped investing in the smaller ones. And it was a very close game. I think we had a great time. I kind of got the impression that when I said, shall we play this game, there was a little bit of apprehension because, it's not the best looking game, I suppose, and it does date back to the 60s. And I suppose a certain stigma comes with that if you're not familiar with Sid Sackson games. But I'm so happy that it went down extremely well. And, those players we played it with said, I'm really glad we chose to play this because it was a great experience. So that is Acquire. So that's all the games that I've played over the last couple of weeks. Generally lighter games here because the newer games I'm playing are a bit more rules intensive and taking a bit more time. So that's it really. If you have enjoyed the video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to my channel. And for everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.